On example number 3, we are dealing with a division. Now, just like we have on the square root, we know that we cannot have imaginary numbers on the denominator. So we're going to multiply by something that's called the conjugate. So on the left-hand side, write down multiply by the conjugate. Basically, in order to be able to get rid of the I on the denominator, we are going to multiply by 1 plus 2i. Notice that the real part did not change. That's still positive 1. The only one that changes to the opposite is the imaginary part. And just like the difference of two squares, the middle terms will always cancel out, as you guys will notice in a few seconds. Now what we do on the bottom, we'll do on the top as well. So we multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate. Now we're going to use our distributive property. 3 times 1 will give us 3. 3 times 2i will give us positive 6i. Denominator. 1 times 1 will give us 1. 1 times 2i is positive 2i. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2i. And negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. I times I is I squared. Many of you guys will be forgetting your I squared on your homework. So be careful. When you multiply negative 2i times positive 2i will give me a negative 4i squared. Now from here, I'm going to simplify. If you notice, there's nothing to simplify on the top. So the top will remain 3 plus 6i. On the denominators, the middle terms will always cancel out. We know that I squared is negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 4 will give me positive 4. So in the denominator, we're going to combine our like terms. 1 plus 4 will give me a 5. Now, we need to be able to separate this, the real part and the imaginary part. So we're just going to rewrite it as 3 over 5 plus 6i over 5. And this will be our final answer. You have to remember that your solution should be real plus or minus an imaginary part. You cannot leave your answer as this. Let's continue with example B. On example B, we're going to multiply by the conjugate because we have an I on the denominator. So the conjugate will be, remember, negative 1. That real part stays the same. The only thing that changes was the imaginary to the opposite. So it'll be negative 1 minus 3i. And what we do on the bottom, we need to do on top, so we keep the equation equivalent. We are going to simplify it. So negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Negative 2 times negative 3i is positive 6i. Denominator will be negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Negative 1 times positive 3i is positive 3i. Positive 3 times negative 1 is negative 3i. Positive 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. I times I will be I squared. Now from here, we need to simplify the top. Nothing we can do with the top. So since I have to rewrite it in this format, I'm going to go and separate 2, that's a plus, and then 6i. Both of them will end up with being a fraction. On the denominator, now if your middle terms do not cancel out, you know that you did something wrong. You probably did not multiply correctly. Check your signs. I squared is negative 1, so negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9. And I'm going to combine my like terms. 1 plus 9 is 10 on each one. They share the same denominator. I'm going to reduce my fraction, so it gives me 1 over 5 plus divide by 2, so it gives me 3i over 5. And if you want to write down 3i over 5 or 3/5 I, that should be, either way will be correct. Go and try letter C and D, and we can compare answers. Go and pause it. Okay, so let's continue with letter C. On letter C, we have an I on the denominator, so we got multiplied by the conjugate, which is 6 plus 3i. Notice the only thing that I changed was the imaginary to the opposite. It was a negative, I changed to a positive. The 6 remains the same, and what we do on the bottom, we need to do to the top. We are going to use FOIL to multiply, so 3 times 6 will give us 18. 3 times 3i gives me 9i. Negative I times 6 is negative 6i. Negative I times positive 3i is negative 3i squared. The denominator, same thing, 6 times 6 will be 36. 6 times 3i will give me positive 18i. Negative 3 times 6 will give us negative 18i. And negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. And then I squared. This is a negative. Now, I'm going to simplify first the top. I know that I squared is negative 1 times negative 3. That'll be positive 3. So we have 18 plus 3 will give me 21. I'm going to combine all like terms. So 9i minus 6i is positive 3i. I'm going to separate as a fraction. This should always cancel every single time. I know that I squared is negative 1. Negative 9 times negative 1 is positive 9. So my denominator will be 36 plus 9, which is 45. Now I can reduce my fractions. I can divide each one by 3. So 21 divided by 3 will give me 7. 45 divided by 3 is 15. This one can also be divided by 3. So it gives me 1i, or just I, over 15 as well. Now for letter D, some of you guys might want to multiply by 2i. I prefer just to be consistent. I'm going to multiply by negative 2i, the top and the bottom. There's no real part, so that'll be an easier problem. Distributive property, that gives me negative 4i. Negative 5 times negative 2i give me positive 10i squared. The denominator will be 2i times negative 2i is negative 4i squared. Now don't cancel. The plus does not allow you to cancel this out. Be careful. We're going to simplify the top first. That gives me negative 1 times positive 10 is negative 10. Now remember to write down your real part first. So negative 10 minus 4i over. Notice that I placed the sign of the second term in the middle. This is a negative 1 times negative 4 will give me positive 4. So the denominator will be the same on both. I'm going to reduce my fraction by 2, so it'll be negative 5 over 2. Reduce my fraction, I can divide by 4, so it just gives me negative 1i or negative I. And that's my final answer.